I once sat on a jury for a fairly serious assault case. The defense attorney was doing an impressive job poking holes in the victim's testimony, especially questioning whether the victim could clearly identify anyone in a dark alley. The victim hesitated, clearly unsure. Then the defendant suddenly leapt up, smacked his hands on the table, and shouted, "Just tell them already. You couldn't see my face because I had a ski mask on." The attorney dropped his head into his hands and didn't move for almost a minute. The judge sighed and said to the stenographer, "Please tell me you recorded that." I'm a court stenographer, and staying quiet during ridiculous moments is the hardest part of the job. One time, a man was being tried for a DUI. The officer testified that he failed every sobriety test miserably. The defendant insisted on doing his own cross-examination. He proudly asked the officer, "If I was so drunk, then how come I backed the car perfectly into the ditch so I didn't hit the mailbox?" He clearly thought he'd made some genius point. The judge peered over his glasses and said, "Sir, you just admitted you steered your vehicle into a ditch." A divorcing couple was in court fighting over everything, down to who would get their pet parrot. The bird apparently had a filthy vocabulary. The husband's lawyer insisted the wife had trained the parrot to insult the husband. They actually brought the bird to court. As soon as the husband began talking, the parrot squawked, "Shut it, Gary, you cheap loser." The courtroom broke down laughing. The judge ruled the parrot clearly favored the wife and awarded the bird to her. I observed a case where a man was suing his neighbor, claiming the neighbor's dog barked non-stop and ruined his life. He said he couldn't sleep or eat and was traumatized by the noise. The defense attorney pulled a squeaky toy out of his bag and gave it one squeeze. Instantly, the plaintiff barked, loudly and convincingly. It came out that he had a psychological condition that caused him to imitate sounds, and it was actually him barking all night, not the dog. The case was dropped. During a robbery trial, the prosecutor held up a bright orange hoodie worn by the suspect on camera. The defendant leaned over to whisper something to his lawyer, who immediately looked horrified and asked for a break. Turns out the defendant had whispered, "Make sure I get that hoodie back after we win." It's my lucky one, except the microphone on the defense table was still on, and the entire jury heard it. I represented a landlord in an eviction case where the tenant hadn't paid rent in half a year. Her defense? The house was haunted, and the ghost supposedly told her that money was an illusion and she shouldn't have to pay anything. She even brought an EVP recording, which was nothing but static. At one point she yelled, "There! Did you hear that? It said, free rent." The judge replied, "Unless your ghost has a paycheck and can sign a check, you're being evicted." My dad, who's a judge, once dealt with a driver caught going 110 miles per hour in a 55 zone. The man chose to represent himself and launched into a lengthy explanation about the Doppler effect, claiming the radar gun was unreliable due to how fast he was moving away from it. He spent 20 minutes drawing diagrams. My dad listened patiently, then said, "Great physics lesson. But the officer followed you for 3 miles with his lights on. Physics doesn't explain why you didn't pull over." I watched a theft case where a woman was accused of stealing expensive perfume. She insisted she'd never even stepped foot in the store. The prosecutor played security footage of a woman with a massive dragon tattoo on her neck taking the items. In court, the defendant wore a scarf. The prosecutor asked her to remove it, she refused. The judge ordered her to. Underneath was the same dragon tattoo. She stared at the judge and said, "It's just a popular tattoo. Lots of people have this same dragon." I served on a jury for a man suing a grocery store because he said he slipped on a grape and permanently injured his back. He hobbled around the courtroom with a cane, grimacing dramatically. During lunch, I happened to go to a nearby sandwich spot. There he was, cane tucked under his arm, effortlessly carrying a heavy tray of drinks, laughing, and twisting around. When we returned to court, I quietly informed the bailiff. The judge declared a mistrial on the spot. In family court, a man was trying to avoid paying child support, claiming he was totally broke. His ex's attorney asked, "If you're penniless, how did you afford the trip to Cabo you posted on Instagram last week?" The man panicked and said, that wasn't me. My account got hacked by someone who looks just like me and takes vacations. The lawyer displayed the Instagram photo on the screen. The man in the picture wore a t-shirt reading, "World's Best Dad, Gary." Given that his name was Gary, the argument fell apart immediately. I attended a small claims trial where a woman was demanding $5,000 from her hairstylist. She said the stylist cut her hair too short, destroying her romance, her job opportunities, and her overall happiness. The judge asked for a photo of her hair before the cut. It looked identical to what she had sitting on her head in court. Then the stylist showed a text message the woman had sent the day after the appointment. "I love it. So sassy." The woman tried to claim she had been sarcastic. The judge didn't buy it for a second. A sovereign citizen showed up in court for driving with no license or registration. He kept interrupting the judge, shouting things like, "I don't consent. I'm a free inhabitant, not a corporate entity. You have no authority over my vessel." The judge, clearly exhausted, finally said, "If you're a vessel, then I'm the harbor master. And I'm docking you in the county jail for 30 days for contempt." The defendant's expression was priceless. I testified in a case involving a bar fight. The defendant insisted he was acting in self-defense. His attorney asked me, "Did you witness the victim attack my client first?" I answered, "No. Your client hurled a chair across the room before anything happened." The defendant jumped up angrily and yelled, "That's a lie. I didn't throw a chair. I threw a bar stool. Totally different." His lawyer slowly closed his binder. There wasn't much left to argue after that. A man tried to sue a dry cleaner for supposedly ruining his pants, for an eye-watering $54 million. He claimed emotional trauma and loss of enjoyment of life because the pants were his favorite pair. He happened to be an administrative law judge, so he definitely should have known better. He argued that the shop's "satisfaction guaranteed" sign was an actual binding contract requiring perfection. The presiding judge stared at him like he'd lost his mind and dismissed the case, ordering him to pay the dry cleaner's legal fees. A young guy was on trial for graffiti. He had spray painted the word "ghost" all over town. He pled not guilty. When the prosecutor gave him a form to sign acknowledging his rights, he automatically wrote "ghost" instead of his legal name. He realized the mistake instantly and tried to scribble it out, but the bailiff grabbed the paper. The prosecutor held it up to the jury like a trophy. It was practically a written confession. The jury took 5 minutes to convict him. I watched a burglary trial where the homeowner claimed the intruder crawled in through the dog door. The accused was a very large man, and his attorney's entire strategy was essentially, "If the dog door doesn't fit, you must acquit." They brought a replica dog door to the courtroom. The defendant tried to crawl through, got stuck halfway, and couldn't move. Maintenance had to dismantle the frame to free him. He was acquitted of entering through the dog door, mainly because it was physically impossible. In a custody case, the mother argued that the father was too consumed by conspiracy theories to be a responsible parent. The father took the stand and began normally, talking about loving his children. Within minutes, he veered into claiming the judge was a reptilian in a human disguise and that the moon was actually a government hologram used to track sleep cycles. He lost custody immediately. On his way out, he handed the bailiff a pamphlet about flat earth beliefs. I defended a man who was accused of selling knockoff luxury watches. He swore they were genuine. In court, he decided to prove it by demonstrating the durability of the sapphire crystal. He grabbed a watch, hit it with a hammer, and it exploded into tiny pieces of cheap plastic. Shards scattered everywhere. He stared at the remains and said, "That one must have been defective. Let me try another." The judge told him to absolutely not touch anything else. I was waiting in traffic court while a young woman defended a ticket for running a red light. When the judge asked why she didn't stop, she replied, "Your Honor, I checked my horoscope that morning, and it said, 'Don't stop for anything today.' I thought the universe was giving me a sign." The judge stared at her for a long moment and finally said, "The universe didn't mention the $300 fine you're about to receive." Next time, follow traffic laws, not astrology. A man representing himself was on trial for stealing a car. During his cross-examination of the car's owner, he asked, "Isn't it true that your car has a bad starter and you have to jiggle the key to the left to get it going?" The owner confirmed it. The defendant beamed proudly at the jury, having no idea he'd just admitted knowing the car's quirks, knowledge only someone who had driven it would have. That was the moment his case was basically over. I worked as a clerk during a nasty divorce trial. The husband claimed he had no expensive possessions left because his $50,000 Rolex supposedly slipped off his wrist and disappeared into the ocean while he was swimming. Later on, during questioning, his attorney asked him to verify the time on a text message. Without thinking, he pushed up his sleeve and glanced at his wrist, where the supposedly lost Rolex was sitting in plain view. The wife's lawyer jumped up and shouted, "Objection! The watch has returned from the deep." The courtroom erupted. A defendant was on trial for drug possession after being caught with a bag of white powder. He insisted it was just baking soda for a school project. The prosecutor asked if they could test it right in the courtroom. Confident, the defendant agreed. A forensic tech came in, ran the test, and the powder instantly turned bright blue, pure cocaine. The defendant stared at it in shock and blurted, "What? My dealer lied. He told me it was mixed with baking soda so it wouldn't test strong." The entire room went dead silent. I served on a jury for a woman suing a fast food chain because she claimed their coffee was scalding hot and had burned her. It wasn't a famous case, just someone trying to copy it. During the trial, she brought in a cup of fresh coffee from the same restaurant to demonstrate how dangerously hot it supposedly was. She got worked up, waving her arms around, and accidentally knocked the cup straight into her own lap. She didn't react at all. No flinch, no scream, nothing. The coffee was clearly lukewarm. Then she suddenly seemed to remember she was supposed to be in pain and let out a delayed dramatic shriek. Everyone in the courtroom fought back laughter. A man was facing charges for robbing a convenience store. The cashier had described the robber as having a very distinct, squeaky voice. The defense lawyer instructed the defendant not to speak under any circumstances. During the lineup in court, the cashier said he couldn't be sure unless he heard the suspect speak. The prosecutor asked the defendant to say, "Give me the money." Trying to disguise himself, the man growled in an exaggerated, gravelly Batman voice, "Give me the money." The judge told him to use his real voice. The defendant squeaked out in a high pitch, "But that is my normal voice." The cashier immediately pointed at him. I watched a small claims case where a guy was demanding the return of everything he'd ever given his ex. He even had a written inventory. It listed things like a half-used bottle of shampoo, a 50-cent Carnival teddy bear, and the $12 he'd spent on a movie ticket years earlier. The judge skimmed the list, looked at the man for a long moment, then slowly pulled a $20 bill from his wallet. He handed it to the bailiff and said, "Give this to him. Consider yourself fully compensated. Now leave my courtroom and grow up." A woman tried to claim her neighbor had stolen her patio furniture. The neighbor insisted he'd bought it at a yard sale down the street. To prove his point, he produced the yard sale flyer, complete with photos. The furniture in the ad matched exactly, including a very distinctive paint chip on one of the chairs. The plaintiff stared at the photos, then muttered, "Well, it looked like mine." Case dismissed immediately. A defendant claimed he couldn't have committed the crime because he'd been out of town visiting family. His alibi seemed airtight, until the prosecutor pulled up timestamped social media posts from that same night, uploaded from within city limits. The defendant's explanation? My cousin must have borrowed my phone, used my account, and taken photos of himself at places I usually go. The judge didn't even respond. He just rubbed his temples. A man on trial for pickpocketing insisted he'd been framed. The prosecution showed surveillance footage of the thief subtly lifting a wallet. The defendant jumped up and declared, "That's not how I pick pockets. That guy's technique is sloppy. I would never grab it like that." There was a moment of stunned silence before his attorney whispered, "Sit down. Please." In an animal control hearing, a man argued that his dog never barked and that the neighbor was lying. Mid-hearing, someone opened the courtroom door and the man's dog, who had slipped his collar, poked his head in. Seeing his owner, the dog barked excitedly, non-stop, loud, echoing through the room. The judge raised one eyebrow and said, "Evidence noted." A guy sued a restaurant because he chipped his tooth on a foreign object in his soup. He claimed it was something hard and dangerous. They examined the bowl and found the object, a small fragment of a tooth. The dentist's report showed the toothpiece was his own, likely broken before he even took a bite. He still tried to claim the soup weakened it. The judge dismissed it with a single sentence: "Sir, you cannot sue a restaurant because your own tooth attacked you."